Hey everyone, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. For today's video, we're going to be taking an in-depth look into the 2006 Hummer H1 Alpha Open Top. In this review, we'll start it up, show the engine, get an exhaust clip, and go over the performance data. I'll take it on a thorough drive and show you many of the unique aspects throughout the interior as well as exterior. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop on in, start her up, and let her run. A huge thanks to Jerry Wood Dodge Viper for providing this opportunity today. For more information about the dealership, including contact info and current inventory, please feel free to check out their website provided in the description box below. Most folks are familiar with the original Humvee and the many years it served as the truck of choice for the United States military. In fact, AM General has been building those high-mobility, multi-purpose wheeled vehicles since the mid-1980s. It wasn't until the early 90s, though, that they considered developing one for civilian use. The resulting product was the 1992 Hummer H1. Before a network of dealerships were established, the first H1s were actually sold by mail order, directly from the factory. AM General set up a dedicated 800 number where people could request more information, such as videotapes, brochures, and of course order forms. Initially, options were scarce. AC didn't become available till the middle of the first model year, and you couldn't even get power windows, door locks, mirrors, or even cruise control until 1994. They were simple, rugged, and designed for one thing: to take you places where no other vehicle could go. The H1 evolved a lot over the years with incremental improvements in performance, drivability, and refinement. However, most folks would say that the most important changes didn't come until 2006 with the introduction of the H1 Alpha. It was the first time the H1 had been significantly re-engineered in over a decade. It benefited from an all-new Duramax diesel and Allison transmission, not to mention a lengthy list of drivetrain and chassis changes to not only modernize it, but re-establish what it meant to be a Hummer. From the outside, it looks like any H1 of the past, but look closely and you'll notice a redesigned brush guard, special badging, a new air snorkel, refreshed wheels, and a raised body. All 2006 H1s were designated as Alphas and two body styles were available. Base price for the open top was $129,399, while the wagon commanded $140,796, both of which included a $1,025 destination charge. The only options available were a 12,000-pound winch, as shown here, 17-inch two-piece forged wheels, and front and rear e-lockers. Each could be ordered individually or wrapped up together in a $5,726 total option off-road package. Despite debuting towards the end of 2004, production of the Alpha didn't start until the beginning of 2005 as the 2006 model. There were no H1s for the 2005 model year. AM General produced a total of 729 Alphas over the span of 2 waves. The first wave lasted between January 2005 and May 2005, where 448 units were produced. The second wave picked back up in September 2005. Only 281 units are produced after that before AM General announced on May 12, 2006 that they would be ending production of the civilian H1. Over the years, Alphas have become quite the collector's item, often commanding a much higher selling price than any other H1. The Alpha was the most modern and capable H1 that AM General had ever built. The Alpha name later appeared in 2008, denoting a new range-topping trim level for the smaller H3 that offered greater performance in the form of V8 power, more luxury, and more exclusivity. While the H2 also received a larger engine and a new interior in 2008, it was the only Hummer to never receive an Alpha badge. The H1 Alpha was offered with 2 wheel and tire packages. However, this one's been fitted with an aftermarket setup. The standard Hummer wheels consisted of 17-inch high-strength cast aluminum alloys with a tire bead retaining system and Goodyear 37 by 12.5-inch GSA radials. The optional wheels and tires retained the same dimensions, but consisted of two-piece forged alloys with dual bead locks and Goodyear's NTR Kevlar reinforced tires. Both tire sets offered run flat technology that allowed you to drive up to 20 miles at 30 miles per hour. One of my favorite features on the H1 is the central tire inflation system, which includes an onboard air compressor and concealed air delivery system. This makes it easy to air down your tires when off-roading and fill them back up when you're ready to head home, all at a press of a button. Unique to the Alpha are four-wheel power-assisted 12-inch disc brakes, the largest ever used on an H1 to provide additional stopping power. They replaced the 10.7-inch discs used on 2004 and earlier models. The brakes are mounted inboard to keep them protected from potential damage when off-roading. ABS came standard. The H1 uses geared wheel hub assemblies, which help contribute to its impressive crawling and climbing abilities. For the Alpha, the previously used straight cut gears were replaced with helical cut gears. Not only did this improve gear engagement, but it added a measure of refinement by reducing noise levels and lessening the characteristic rocking sensation of older H1s when coming to a stop. The hubs feature a gear ratio of 1.92 to 1, which for the Alpha translates to a crawl ratio of 41.5 to 1. That's 22% better than before. The power-assisted steering has a variable ratio that ranges between 13 to 1 on center and 16 to 1 at full lock. It takes just 2.5 turns to lock and features a more robust steering gear and revised geometry. What's even more impressive, considering its size, is the turning circle, which is measured at just 26.5 feet, making it surprisingly maneuverable. Support in the H1 is an independent double A-frame suspension with open-end coil springs and hydraulic shock absorbers. Front and rear tracks measure a wide 71.62 inches. Changes to the Alpha include new springs, sway bars, and strengthened half shafts to handle the added torque from the Duramax. Collectively, this led to a 17% increase in torsional stiffness over a 2004 H1. It goes without saying that the hallmark of any Hummer is having inert off-road ability. The H1 is able to tackle up to 60% grades and 40% side slopes. The approach angle is an incredible 72 degrees, but with the 12,000-pound winch, it drops to 47 degrees. The breakover angle is 32.5 degrees, and the departure angle is 37.5 degrees. Minimum ground clearance is 16 inches. The H1 can also ford a body of water up to 30 inches deep and climb a 22-inch vertical wall. Part of that fording ability comes from the cowl-mounted air snorkel and special orientation of the exhaust system. The four-wheel drive system has a low range of 2.72 to 1 and is aided by AM General's Torque Track 4 or TT4 traction control system, which works in conjunction with the H1's torsion limited-slip differentials to provide torque to the wheels with the most traction. TT4 uses ABS wheel sensors and a dedicated ECU to determine the amount of braking forces required to limit wheel spin as needed. To ensure all of the H1's vitals are protected, the entire underside is protected by tubular ladder frames. With the Alpha's introduction, the H1 received a completely new powertrain, consisting of a 6.6-liter Duramax turbo diesel V8 and a robust Allison 1000 5-speed automatic transmission. This combination was already used widely in GM's heavy-duty truck line since the early 2000s, but for the H1, engineers went with a variant used in the GM T560 or C4500 commercial trucks, as it packaged better in the H1's chassis. However, the engine still required 23 different component changes to fit just right, including a redesigned oil pan. The Duramax is a taller engine as well, so in order to accommodate it and its turbo housing, the H1's body had to be raised up by 2 inches. If that's not enough, the whole powertrain is longer. This meant moving the transfer case further towards the rear and adding a new drive shaft. Much of the Alpha's increased capabilities came from the Duramax. It's quieter than the 6.5-liter Optimizer turbo diesel it replaced and boasts quite a bit more horsepower and torque. As expected, towing and payload ratings also saw increases, up to 7,000 pounds and 3,087 pounds respectively. Gross combined weight rating for the Alpha is 17,300 pounds, which is 2,000 pounds more than before, while curb weight for a standard H1 open top is about 7,213 pounds. Fuel economy, range, and total capacity were all improved for the Alpha. Before, the H1 had a cruising range of about 400 miles. Between its two fuel tanks, capacity was rated at 42 gallons. Because everything had to be pushed rearward with the new powertrain, the fuel tanks had to be made shorter, but since there was extra height with the body lift, engineers had the freedom to increase the height of the tanks, subsequently increasing capacity to a total of 51.5 gallons for a range of about 570 miles. The main fuel tank can hold 29.5 gallons of diesel, while the auxiliary tank can hold 22 gallons. The engine is constructed using an overhead valve design with an iron block, aluminum heads, and a compression-style ignition system. Fuel is delivered via high-pressure common rail direct injection. The compression ratio is rated at 17.5 to 1, and maximum engine speed is 3,250 RPM. In the H1, the Duramax develops 300 horsepower at 3,000 RPM and a hefty 520 pound-feet of torque at 1,500 RPM. For comparison, a 2004 H1 with the Optimizer engine was developing 205 horsepower at 3,400 RPM and 440 pound-feet of torque at 1,800 RPM. Along with benefiting low-end performance, the Alpha's new powertrain meant the H1 could accelerate to 60 miles an hour in 13.5 seconds. That's a full 3 seconds quicker than its predecessor. Top speed was electronically limited to 90 miles per hour. The Allison transmission also did wonders with improving the H1's drivability. Its durability is widely known not just in general purpose trucks, but in commercial applications as well. One important revision over the previously used 4L80E 4-speed automatic was gearing. First gear was shortened from 2.48 to 1 to 3.1 to 1, accompanied by a taller overdrive gear of 0.71 to 1 versus 0.75 to 1. Other improvements included the addition of a tow-haul mode and improved drivetrain braking. Even the shifters for the transmission and transfer case were redesigned to be easier to operate, especially at night with the addition of illumination. A row of buttons to the right of the shifters control the optional front and rear Eaton E-lockers, as well as an overdrive lockout and the tow-haul mode. More power and ability is one thing, but you have to ensure that temperatures can still be managed properly. To do this, the Alpha received a completely redesigned cooling system. The Duramax already came with an exhaust gas recirculating cooler and an internal engine oil cooler. The challenge was the cooling pack in between the airlift brackets. Not only was there a new radiator and intercooler, but a new geared fan drive assembly that runs through a special gearbox that mounts directly to the crankshaft damper pulley. This positioned the fan up at an angle right beneath the radiator so it can more efficiently pull air through and pass it out underneath the engine, helping reduce pressure buildup, improve airflow, get heat out quicker, and even improve brake cooling to a degree. Other additional cooling measures included a fuel cooler, a transfer case cooler, and a transmission oil cooler. There's even a pump that circulates coolant after the engine is shut off to mitigate heat soak. All commercial H1s in 2006 were equipped with the Duramax, but Humvees and fleet sales soldiered on with the Optimizer engine. Driving an H1 is an experience unlike anything else out there. And it's kind of funny, I remember when I was little, looking at the sheer size of the H1, thinking that thing had to be an absolute chore to maneuver around, especially in tighter areas. And to be perfectly honest, it's not as bad as you might think. Obviously, the H1 is a very big vehicle, but it's more so big in width than anything else. It's not exceptionally long or tall, and a lot of full-size trucks nowadays can easily eclipse this. This was my first time driving an H1, and it kind of threw me for a loop a little bit. I had to get my bearings straight, because you're not only trying to manage that very wide track, but the interior has an interesting layout. You're so far detached from everybody else. The H1 can sit up to 4 people, but you don't have a lot of room in each of the seating positions, even though the interior is very airy. A lot of that is due to the massive console that runs across the middle of the vehicle. It's basically the cover for the engine, transmission, and other drivetrain components. The H1 is a very basic vehicle, and when you look at it compared to a lot of stuff nowadays, you can almost call it crude. This interior was actually introduced in 2004, completely redesigned with better build quality, more features, and just easier ergonomics. And that's one thing that the Hummer really plays strongly in. It's a very simple vehicle, so just the necessities. You have some extra bits like power windows, heated seats, a premium audio system, and all of that good stuff. But generally speaking, it's just bare to the bones. It's designed to do one thing: go off-roading and be pretty comfortable doing it. Driving an H1 has always been on my bucket list, and I feel so fortunate to be able to spend time with this one because the Alphas are so uncommon to see. It did not disappoint. I love everything about this, from the way it looks to the way it feels on the inside, the feeling of power from the Duramax. It's just, Hummer's tagline back in the day was "like nothing else," and that perfectly describes the H1. You can almost think of this being in a class to its own, making it a very special vehicle in my eyes. So now let's go ahead and see if she sounds. The driver's seat for a second. This is also his first time driving an H1.
Every time a car goes by, my heart sinks to the floor because I don't know where I'm at. It's so big.
It takes some time to get used to, that's for sure.
The road's kind of tiny. When there's no traffic, it's just fine. It's all good.
This also gives everybody a good example of how wide this thing is.
Oh my gosh. What's up, dude?
Got him! This is awesome.
I'm going as fast as I can, Beetle. This thing is like driving a school bus on steroids.
Corner.
Am I in the grass?
No.
Okay.
You're a good school bus driver. Oh. Or you would be good as a school bus driver. Alright guys, back to the review. Alright, let's go ahead and shut her down. Next, we'll hop in the back seat and check out overall space and amenities. From a safety point of view, the H1 doesn't have any airbags on the interior or any of those electronic safety features like you have nowadays. It is what it is. It's a big, heavy steel construction vehicle that I imagine would put a hurting on anything else that comes into its path. Within the back seat, you have a generous amount of space both in head and leg room, but you don't have a lot of space to spread out, again because of that big console in the middle. Some companies offer aftermarket seating options, like jump seats that actually will go in the middle and clamp down so you can set small children and the like, but you do have some cargo tie downs for securing some extra items. There's cup holders, adjustable air vents, and even some audio controls. Just like the front, pretty much everything you touch from the console to the door panels is all finished in soft touch material, and the seats are very comfortable. While we didn't have a chance to actually take the top off for this demonstration, that's one of the coolest things about the open top. One downside with getting this over the wagon is that you don't have near as much storage space out back. The open top is more of a traditional pickup type bed, while the wagon is obviously enclosed with two big barn doors out back. But like with anything, it just depends on what you're going to be primarily using the vehicle for. The tailgate is simple, it's held in by two retaining clips. There's also a bunch of cargo tie-downs within the bed portion. Another pretty nice convenience feature is the wooden brace that spans the cargo area. Once the soft top is tacked down, it provides added tension so it doesn't flop around on the road. Well everyone, I hope you enjoyed the in-depth look at the Hummer H1 Alpha Open Top. Be sure to stay tuned next time, leave a like and subscribe today. There's always a lot more where that came from. Take care everyone.